All right, how we doing? Good. All right. Welcome. Welcome home. Ebony Rose starting out. Ebony, you are a troublemaker in a good way. I like to call my intercessors instigators because they have to instigate things between earth and heaven. And Ebony is being an instigator tonight. She's instigating the giving tonight. Thank you, and thank you. We appreciate what's happening in this place tonight because he is here and making things happen for us. How are you? Are y'all over last night? Are you hungover? Anybody have a detox hangover, a soul hangover? Talk to me. Good evening. Night 9 already. Can you believe it? Yeah. 21 days to go. 3 weeks. So that means we knocked an entire week out. We have 3 weeks to go, and I'm doing a progress check. That's what I'm going to call it. I'm checking the progress of our detoxers, trying to get myself comfortable here. How do you feel you're doing? If you were to rate yourself on, let's see, we can't say readiness. We'll start with awareness. Rating yourself on awareness from a 1 to 5, and 5 being fully awake, fully aware, what number would you give yourself? And you are allowed to give yourself a 0. But if you get a 0, then I get a 0. So we've got to figure this thing out. From a 0 to 5 for awareness. That's what we worked hard on in week 1. What level are you? A 3, 4? Oh, wow, great. 4s? Ooh, I love y'all. 3, wonderful. 4, okay. What level of awareness? I see a lot of 4s. I see a 5. Wow. So if this awareness is, in fact, a true rating of yourself, I should even be able to see some change, right? You should even be able to appreciate some change. Look at these numbers. No 0s, no 1s. I don't even think I see a 2 yet. Wow. I am pleased. Let me get the tissue and wipe my eyes. I am so pleased at what I see. Welcome. Good evening, everyone, to night 9 of Understanding and Healing from Trauma, our series. Tonight, we're continuing our Soul Detox journey, diving into chapter 5, hopefully, of our book. If you still are in need of the book, you can go onto our website, pick it up, www.suzannemhoward.com, under my products page or shop page, or you can go to Amazon or wherever you buy your books from. Because tonight we're continuing our soul detox journey. And this chapter tonight is going to center around relationships and how trauma impacts our relationships and how we can begin to heal relational wounds. How many in here can be honest tonight and say you have relational wounds? Thank you, Tasha Ross, for your giving. Relational wounds. Even if you haven't quite recognized that this is a relational wound, I have a problem in this part of my life. I have a problem relating in this part of my life with a family member, often with coworkers, staff. Of course, you're not the problem. It's everybody else. But if you're always in the mix of this problem, I want you to be able to be bold enough to write on your journal, because we're still connecting dots. We're just at another level now of connecting dots. And I want you to think about in your relationships with those that are really, really important to you, those that you love. Because relationships are a core part of our lives, and they should be. Relationships are a core part of our lives, but trauma often leaves imprints that affect the way we connect, the way we trust, and even the way we communicate. Tonight, we'll focus on detoxing the effects of trauma in our relationships, clearing out unhealthy patterns, addressing relational wounds, and creating space for healing and growth. We need a weekend retreat solely on this topic, honestly. I'm skimming the surface, which is really the right thing to do because I'm online and in a group therapy setting like this. But if we were one-on-one, or even just taking a book, going through sessions together, we would be at a greater depth, or I'm able to go to a greater depth of work with you. So though these 30 days can give you an idea of what our sessions are like, believe me, they are so much more intentional and specific and challenging. So remember, we have to take into fact that we have a group therapy audience. So we have to take considerations, everyone in the group, and we're live. And I'm not there with you in case you get triggered or anything. So let's begin this soul detox with an open heart and mind, ready to release what no longer serves us and embrace healthier ways of relating to ourselves and others. So, what is a relational soul detox? What is a relational soul detox? A relational soul detox is the process of releasing negative patterns, beliefs, and emotions tied to trauma that interfere with our relationships. It's about recognizing how trauma has shaped our connections with others, detoxing from unhealthy dynamics and responses, and thirdly, cultivating healthier, more fulfilling relationships moving forward. How many don't want that? I would pay anything if there could be some magic wand or some process that I just need to surrender and submit to alongside my coach to cultivate some healthy relationships in my life. Relationships is the currency of the heart. It keeps the heart flowing. You know, even the conflict that comes from it, it keeps the heart beating. Relationships is the currency of the heart. So we have to keep pressing and working towards cultivating healthier, more fulfilling relationships moving forward. So, recapping from last night, we focused on the material in chapter 4. I don't know if you all are reading on your own. How many are reading the book on your own? And I don't care if you've gone ahead, but how many are reading the chapter, maybe rereading the chapter again while we're in it? Because instead of reading the book just solely to you, I'm summarizing the book the way I would actually do it in a session. The book is really to help you to do at home. It's your soul work, your self work. Last night, we focused on the material in chapter 4 and explored trauma and triggers through the lens of a soul detox. And it went something like this: recognizing triggers, internal and external triggers that tie us to past trauma and disrupt emotional balance. We talked about tools for releasing triggers. We went into the grounding, remember 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Reframing, that's a powerful tool. And resilience building were introduced as ways to detox from triggers. Resilience, we need some people that understand resilience. Building resilience, we worked through that. And as we discussed how to strengthen our emotional foundation, and we talked about that through mindfulness, boundaries, gratitude. Tonight, we shift our focus outward, exploring how trauma affects our relationships and what we can do to detox, to heal these conditions. So, how does trauma impact our relationships? Trauma is a major influencer. We talked about triggers last night being spiritual disruptors, right? Did y'all get that? Well, trauma influences the way we relate to others, and very strong. It's profound. It's marked. It's pivotal ways that trauma impacts our relationships. So let's explore some common patterns. I'm going to be sending a blog out on this soon, so you'll get a little more in-depth reading on it. but something big that I teach in my coaching. This is a model that is in every piece of every program that I set up with clients. Attachment styles. We have to learn our attachment styles, and our attachment styles are what we learned as far as trusting growing up in the households with those who raised us. How did we attach to them? Did they make us feel secure in our home? Did they make us feel secure when we were away from home? Did we feel secure when we got into trouble? Did we feel secure when we did something well? Did we feel secure when we walked in a room? Did they look at us like they were happy to see us? Or they look at us as if we were another problem, another bill, somebody else's situation, a mistake I made? How were you shown attunement growing up as a child is really a great majority of what is affecting you today. How you grew up as a child is showing up today. And what we need to do once we discover the dysfunction that follows us, and some of it we just carry with us in our relationships to relationship to relationship, is we need to become aware of our attachment styles so we can start becoming what we want to become, what the Father has predestined for us to become, not what we have become because of them who raised us. Thank you, Renee. She says, this is one of my favorite books. And on that note, I was contacted by a therapist who I'm beginning to have a nice bond with. We had a nice conversation, very sweet woman. And she's going to start using this same book, Renee, in her counseling center. And she's going to have it as part of her process when she's dealing with her clients, her patients for trauma, and she's going to have them get the book and give them some material to read at home. She said, it's so easy to read. It's so laid out, page after page. You're not overcome with big words and lost in language. It's such an easy read that it makes you want to do application, and it makes application possible. So I thank you, Renee, for putting that on the screen, that this has now become one of your favorite books. But attachment style is very important. And I didn't know about attachment style. I think until, I don't know if it's when I became a pastor or when I started studying psychology, that I really started to understand attachment styles and why I related to people the way I did. You know, because people will be quick to tell you that you're wrong or how you connect is wrong and all these things. And it doesn't make it wrong. It just makes you different. And you're not different from everyone else in the world. You're just different from what they've experienced. So it made me want to explore, well, why was I so different? And they use different terms that I'm not going to bring on here tonight to express how they experienced me. But our attachment styles are very important, and we have to be willing to do the work to decide how I want to attach in relationships. I don't want to attach by what my parents did or didn't do. I want to attach in freedom. I want to attach in love. I want to have the trust for myself, trust for the Almighty. I want to believe in myself and have confidence in myself as I believe and have confidence in the Almighty, so that all of that shows in my relationships. Instead of my trauma showing up, I want to show up, and I want to show up in the version that I was created to show up in, and not in the broken and fragmented pieces. So in our attachment styles, we have a few of them, and I want to read them briefly. I'm going to give you one-line definitions of them. And if I'm led, I will give you, a greater definition, a testimony, or something that I've heard, or anything along those lines. But I want to give this to you because I need you to see yourself. I need you to become aware of how you attach, and not to think that you're too old, that whatever a part of this attachment that you don't have an appreciation for, change it. Change it. All of these things that we're talking about, the good news is all of it can be changed with a little work, some elbow grease, and a good coach on your side. It can happen. So one of our attachment styles is called the avoidant attachment. Avoidant attachment. An avoidant person usually withdraws emotionally or avoids closeness to protect themselves. If you have trauma wounds from a parent, I would love to work with you. I have an amazing program. I always say a 1-year program, but with the clients that I have worked with and have had success, it's definitely been a 2-year program. And that was on, I think she was twice a week. I can't remember if she was weekly or not. I always get the testimony of this one young woman, so impressive to me. And now she's doing great things in the world. And we work through the daughter or son detox. And it's detoxing from the dysfunctions of the family you were raised in and realizing what you did not get that you should have gotten, because it's all slated. Oftentimes you hear people say, there's no book on parenting. There's wisdom that can have been passed down to you. There's books that you can actually read. And then there is the willing to learn and putting your child first experience. So I don't want to make it hard for anyone or make anyone feel bad, that the way you parented, or if you feel that you failed as a parent, or the mistakes that you did make are really blaring at you. That's not the purpose of this. This is the no judgment zone. This is where you're safe. But I want you to become aware that if we do not stop the trauma, what was our t-shirt from last night? Healing begins with me. If we don't stop the trauma, we're going to continue to pass these behaviors down to the next generation. So there's an avoidant attachment. This person wants connection, wants closeness, but they withdraw emotionally because they learned it growing up. They perceived that it was the better thing to do, that it was the better response. It was a safety net for them. So they withdraw emotionally in relationships or avoid closeness altogether to protect themselves. So someone may say something like this, oh, I'm not touchy. I don't like touch. That's an avoidant, because I don't like touch. But God made us for touch. He made us for touch. So if we don't like something that he made us for, we're still in our fallen nature. We're still in our broken nature, because we obviously can't live without touch. We can't. People have been put away in wards and in cells and have lost their mind because they didn't have conversation or communication or touch from another human being. People are asked to volunteer when babies are in the hospital, newbies, that they need someone to come in there to touch them, to hold them, to rock them, because there's no parent around, or the parent is unable to be around to give this baby touch. So when and I can include myself in this, saying I don't like touch, and touch to this day makes me feel uncomfortable. I have a son and I have a granddaughter, and touch still makes me uncomfortable. And I thank God, because God uses my granddaughter to break away a lot of the things that are a part of my upbringing that I think that I don't like or stay away from. But her warmth and her love and her trust, sometimes she's giving me love, and sometimes I can feel she's needing love from me, and she's making me more comfortable with touch. How many of you here really don't like touch? Now, I don't mind hugging, especially when the anointing is upon me. When the anointing is upon me, it's like the Bible says, I'm another person. I'm going to hug you. I'm going to cry with you. I'm going to hold your hand. But when the anointing lives, don't touch me. I'm not big on touch. So that's an avoidant attachment. The other attachment style is called the anxious attachment. And the anxious person fears abandonment. They had experienced abandonment growing up. And abandonment doesn't mean that a parent left you. Abandonment means that either someone left you, or someone was there but emotionally unavailable to you. This is all based on emotional support, attunement, whether you had attention attunement growing up. So the anxious avoidance suffers abandonment. A parent died. a parent went to jail, whatever extreme issue that could happen that could cause a parent to be removed from the child's life, even if the parent is still in the house. Please hear me. You could have parents there that are like, go play your games, text you, dinner's ready, little Bobby. Text back, okay, mom. Little Bobby comes downstairs. Mommy may be in the room with a man or in the living room, or dad may be in front of the TV watching the game, and little Bobby's sitting at the table alone, or not what I recognize. They come down for dinner and they take the dinner to their room, and all the parents are in their own rooms because everybody's overworked, overdriven, overcommitted. And so we're all nesting together in a house, but home has not taken effect yet. Oh my God, I feel my help again tonight. The house is there, but the home has not taken effect yet, because home has to have heart in it. And there's no heart when we're all eating in separate rooms, and mom's on social media and dad's watching the game, or he's fallen off to sleep, and the kids are in their room on social media or games or whatever it is that they may be doing. This causes someone to fear abandonment. They've never had the warmth of family. They haven't had the warmth of home. They just had the house and the household experience. The anxious avoidant is also overdependent on others for reassurance. This person really, really leans in and depends on people for attention and validation because they didn't get it growing up. So the anxious attached fears abandonment, is overdependent on others for reassurance and their affections and their attentions. The avoidant can be alone. The avoidant can be like, I'm cool. I'm just going to go get something to eat, run some errands. I'm straight. I'll be here by myself. I'm good. The anxious attachment, they're very anxious, but they're very overdependent on others. In relationships, they probably make their significant other feel as though, I don't know how you cross the street without me when we're not together. Or I don't know how I don't feel smothered and suffocated every day in this relationship. And you don't mean to be. And it ebbs and it flows. It comes and it goes. It's a mix. It's a mix of you feeling as though they're going to abandon you. So sometimes you're quick to abandon them. But at the same time, there's an overdependence on them for your reassurance. And then we have the disorganized attachment. This one can really come out of trauma. Disorganized attachment. And this personality type is a mix of avoidance and anxiety, often rooted in unsolved trauma. This one usually is developed through trauma. So you have your secure attachment style, you have your avoidant, you have your anxious, and then you have your disorganized. Disorganized is the new term they're using. It used to be called anxious avoidant, but now it's called disorganized attachment. And it's a mix of avoidance and anxiety. It's often rooted in unresolved trauma, and you would not even want to know how that shows up in the relationship. Upside down, you're turning me. I mean, this relationship is probably full of excitement and drama because this person ebbs and flows. And it's sad when they meet the other codependent in the relationship, because the codependent is going to stay and try to fix this person, even to the detriment of their own health. So avoidant attachment, anxious attachment, and disorganized attachment. And trauma influences us in very profound, prolific ways, and it shows up in our relationship due to our attachment styles, and because trauma causes us to have a fear of vulnerability. Trauma can make us afraid to open up. That's trauma. When you're uncomfortable with opening up, it's easier for you to be, for a lack of a better word right now, fake. It's easier. You're more comfortable being fake than being vulnerable. It's usually because there's been an experience, and the experience is usually from trauma. So someone who fears vulnerability that is induced from trauma will be afraid to open up, and it will lead them to emotional walls and guardedness. And it doesn't matter whether they're in a relationship for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, it doesn't change. You are not going to be able to change that wall. Y'all need to go get some help together. And I've been recommending to couples that I've been counseling as of lately, it's been such an increase. People are really trying to save their marriages. Glory to God. People are really, really trying to save their marriage, that I've been recommending that they have their own individual therapist, and then they have one just for the sessions, because a lot comes up and it's just too much. The room is full of boxes, like we just moved in. We're unpacking so many things that we can't really get anything completed. And it takes vulnerability to really be in a therapeutic process, whether you're with life coaching, mental health life coaching, counseling, psychotherapy, whatever you're in, it's going to take vulnerability. And I was surprised, because of all the dysfunctions that I have come through, I've never had a problem with the fear of vulnerability. But I have been surprised to find out how many people fear vulnerability, even in therapy. I mean, your therapist is supposed to be like the priest for the Catholic individual. That's where the secret confessions come out at. And then you're told how to get over and get relief and get atonement for the sins you've committed. Your therapist is supposed to be like the priest. But people will come in here and lie to the therapist. People will come in and make their spouse lie to the therapist. I had clients that left and there was no resolve, and they came back like 2 or 3 years later. Some came back 5 years later, and they said, we want to apologize. We want to know if that you would take us back on as clients again, because we would sit in the car and I would tell my husband, he better not tell this and he better not say this. And we would come in there with a rehearsed speech and then wonder why we're not seeing any progress, any change in our relationships, because she was dictating the relationship and making him feel guilty or shamed for something he had done. So she had become the driver of the relationship in all aspects, not just the parts that she was good at, and he wanted her to take that place. And not that he had to want her, but I'm just talking about, somebody taking over where I'm good, and she says, you handle that, and he says, I'll handle that. It was very unbalanced, because he was so full of shame and guilt that she drove the relationship and literally drove them right into a wall. And I think they're driving through it, and not in a good way. Like they're trying to drive through a brick wall. And he tries to open up, and she guards and stops. And we can see the behavior. We're trained in profiling the body image, the throat, the hands, the legs. We see all of this stuff. So we're trained to recognize when there is a forbidding conversation that's coming from one spouse or the other. And when trauma is involved and we're afraid to open up, and it leads to emotional walls or guardedness, therapy is just not going to be the place from you, unless the therapist has the I want to say okay to either release you or confront you, knowing that they may have to release you after the confrontation, because people are nasty when it comes to this stuff. And then the other part is relational conflict. Relational conflict. Unresolved trauma can cause heightened sensitivity or misinterpretation in interactions, leading to frequent misunderstandings or overreactions. My God. Unresolved trauma in relationships usually causes conflict because of heightened sensitivity of one or two, because oftentimes the way the world is set up since the fall, if I can go that far back, we're all coming through some level of trauma, different levels of trauma, but we're all coming through trauma. And unresolved trauma in both people can cause both people to be heightened in their sensitivity, big on assumptions and misinterpretations within the interactions, leading to frequent misunderstandings or overreactions. That's a volatile situation there. And I've seen it. And I've seen the other end in therapy too, where the couples are like telling everything, telling all. And it's been, no one's listening. Everyone's talking. Everyone's standing on what's right, what was done wrong to them. But a heightened sensitivity when it comes to what was done to me because it triggered the trauma, but no sensitivity when it came to triggering the trauma in your spouse. So what's another part that comes up that trauma influences? Codependency or isolation. Codependency or isolation. Trauma creates patterns of over-reliance on others for validation or withdrawal to avoid being hurt. Did you hear that? Like, boo-hoo, woohoo. Over-reliance on others. That's a codependency. An over-reliance on others, or an over-reliance on others and you isolate. Codependency, it's a work, but I've seen great success with clients dealing with codependency. Great success. And the more honest you are, the more chances you have of coming through the process in the goal end where you want to be. And a lot of people say, well, how long is this going to be? How long do you think we're going to be in this process? Well, it kind of depends on you. Because if I have to give you soul work and you don't do it, you're extending our process. If you're not doing the steps and the work and working application, you're extending the process. But if you know you're ready and you're ready to work these steps, most things can be done in a year. Some things I've seen, like anger management, you can definitely see degreed level changes of anger management in 3 months. But it's the readiness of the participants. It's the readiness of the person. So dealing with trauma in relationships, we have to learn how to detox relational wounds. And to detox your relationships, you must first address the ways trauma has shaped them. Did you hear that? To detox your relationships, you must first address the ways trauma has shaped your relationship. Maybe you're not happy in your relationship because trauma is shaping it and not you and your significant other. And this requires, guess what our word is for the week? Awareness. This requires awareness. This requires compassion and a willingness to do the inner work. We can't really be happy in relationships. We can. But it requires awareness, compassion, and a willingness to do the inner work. And when I say requires awareness, I want you to put this thought next to it. I want you to think of active listening as an awareness. Because sometimes we do not know the other person because we just simply aren't listening. So there's no awareness. And not repeating back, not, parrots can parrot back and the brain has registered nothing that was said. So repeating what I said ain't telling me that you heard me. It told me that you heard a sound, but did you listen? It said that you listened for a sound, but did you hear me? Active listening is how we're going to become aware. And how about this? Active listening to ourselves. When is the last time you actually listened to yourself? Paid attention to yourself? I appreciate those two that came on tonight and said tonight's going to be good stuff. Yeah, we're in it already. So remember, it is also important to detox your relationships. In order to do that, you must first address the ways the trauma has shaped them. Well, I don't even know where trauma is in my relationship. Well, that's why we're going to help you with some awarenesses. And this comes through assessments. And then I need you to have compassion for yourself, compassion for your significant other, and compassion with the therapist. Because you brought us 10 years of stuff that you didn't want to deal with, and you dropped it on our table. So you got to have compassion with us. We're trying to unpack things, and most time we have to unpack what's fact and what's fiction, first of all. So it's going to take a strong willingness to do the work. So how do we start some of these detoxes? That's a good question. Let's talk about how we start some of these detoxes, because these are important for us to do. I want you to learn from, especially last night's session, how to acknowledge the trauma, how to become aware of the trigger. And then the third step would be acknowledging the impact that the trauma has made. For example, because of the trauma in my childhood, my attachment style is an avoidant attachment. I want touch, I want affection, I want relationship, but I often start it and I back up from it. And then I accuse the other person of not being attentive. Because I move forward, but then I move back. And I do that because I am an avoidant attachment style. So I give you the impression I want something, and then I spend most of the relationship backing up for the thing that I gave you the impression that I wanted. And I've caused a level of confusion. And usually the confused partner will usually say, well, I'll wait till they're ready. And when they want it, they'll come to me, and then I can offer it to them. Because an avoidant will not only avoid emotional things, touch, things like that, they'll actually push you away. But what their heart is saying is, please grab me and teach me. Please grab me and show me how to go through this. It's uncomfortable. I'm feeling very exposed. I'm feeling as if I'm passive and if I'm weak because I want touch. Because growing up, that was how we were able to perceive it. So you've got to find where the trauma is in your life first. You've got to be able to acknowledge it. You've got to be able to find those triggers, and the assessment should have helped you greatly. And then acknowledge the impact that trauma is having on you. Because if the trauma is having an impact on you, you can best believe it's having an impact on your partner. It's having an impact on those that you are responsible for raising. It's having an impact on everything that you touch, everything that you are involved in. The trauma is impacting there. Yeah, I'm going to stop right there on that part. So how do we begin to acknowledge the impact of trauma? First, reflect on how your past experiences may influence your behaviors, your fears, or your responses in the relationship. How are you responding in your current relationship that's not working for the relationship? How are you responding in your current or most recent relationship that has not worked? Maybe you were told by someone or a couple someones that this is how you show up in relationships. I remember, because I'm an avoidant attachment and I've done a lot of work, so I should assess again to see where I am on the scale. But I remember when I was told before that I'm the one, whenever something comes up or goes wrong, I'm quick to say, oh, I'm breaking up. This relationship is over, because I'm avoiding what I think is already going to come anyway. How did I become an avoidant attachment? Through my work. I'll show you how I discovered it. We were raised by a mom and dad in the household. My father was a big attention giver. He wanted children. I was the 12th child. There were 11 children before me. I was the 12th. Mom had nothing else to give. When she married my father, he had a prior marriage, no children, and he wanted 2 girls. And he begged my mother, I'm told, for 2 children. He just wanted 2 girls. And lo and behold, God blessed them and gave them 2 girls. I don't remember my mother doing my hair. My father did my hair. I don't remember my mom taking us to pick out outfits. My father took us to pick out outfits. My mother, I don't remember at all. She may have when I was younger. I don't remember my mother hugging me. I don't remember my mother holding my hand. I remember even when we were crossing the street before, she would have her purse or a bag in her hand, and she would tell me to grab onto the bag. So I would grab onto this bag. So it was like this bag was between me and her. Now, my father, kissing and hugging and holding the hands. But see, this nurturing part that we get from our parents, because there's roles that each parent plays in our lives. They are responsible for giving us this. And when we get older, and we don't have this from a man, we don't have this from a woman, it shows up in our life. There are duties that only a woman can give you and only a man can give you. So because he overcompensated, did not take away the fact that the maternal nurturer in the house did not nurture me. So I grew up with not needing attachment, wanting it, but not needing it. And that's something. So that's how I found my attachment style to be an avoidant, because it wasn't given to me. I'm reading your post. Very good. Keep that chat going. Matter of fact, let's take a moment right now. If you feel that you're being fed, if you're being nurtured right now, if you feel that some of the experiences that you've had are given attention to, why don't we go ahead and put some stars up on the screen? I know it's heavy tonight, so let's put some stars up on the screen. What can you give tonight? Let's put some stars up. Let's get it rolling with stars, and we'll jump back in. Tonight's t-shirt is a very beautiful color, and it's from Hope to Hurt. I'm sorry, I think I said it backwards, right? We don't want to go from that. Let me read it again. Yes, from hurt to hope. We're going from hurt to hope. Thank you, Dolores Davis, for the stars. Come on, y'all. Send some stars up. It's fun. Let's put some stars up on the screen. Come on. If y'all want me to keep teaching, come on, Edith Sylvia. Thank you for the super sticker. Come on. Let's go. This is good stuff. I'm praying when we're not online for you. You know, the Holy Spirit has a way of expediting work that is done, spiritual work and psychological work. Where you at, YouTubers? Come on. What is it, Friday night and everybody's out? I know we have 2 birthdays today. I want to celebrate tonight Daniel Woodard's birthday. Happy birthday to you. I want to celebrate our chief intercessor at the Apostles' House, Joy Nolan's birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday to you. And I truly love you both. Thank you so much, Rochelle. Thank you. Rochelle, we've been trying to reach out to you. Can you get in touch with Ebony ASAP, please? Thank you, Manuel. God bless you on your healing and recovery journey. What a way to have you getting all my attention right now. Thank you, Renee Holly. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Come on. Couple more of you. We can do it. I know we can. Come on. We've got to get back to this work. Can I get a couple more? Thank you, and thank you, and thank you. We're going to put you across the screen and acknowledge you. I know our number count was a little low. It's Friday night. Maybe you all are burnt out or tired, or maybe you had some awesome activities for the weekend, but we have a replay, so we don't have to worry about too much. So when we acknowledge the trauma and the impact on it, we start by reflecting on our past experiences. Remember that continuum, that lifeline I told you to make, where you draw a line on a piece of paper from the left side across to the front? Thank you, Constance. You draw that line across, and I think that was Carmen Crespo. You draw a line across and you put down all the pivotal, all the high marked moments in your life. That's going to help you pick up on the trauma that's in your life. Thank you, Nanita. That's going to help you pick up on the trauma. And then you can even talk to a coach, or you can, just pray or pay attention to your relationship, what has been said to you, and you can pick up on how you're showing up in those relationships. Thank you, Audrey Holly. She says, keep teaching. So acknowledge the impact of the trauma in your life. Number 2, identify the patterns to release. Identify the patterns to release. Ask yourself, what unhealthy patterns or beliefs am I ready to let go of? Come on. What unhealthy patterns or beliefs am I ready to let go of? If you're able to, type it up in the chat. Put it in the chat tonight. What are some patterns that you know is not working and you are tired of just being hard-headed, stiff-necked, and flat-foot? When you know you desire relationship, you want relationship, And there's some things you're going to have to do to get a relationship. And there's other things you're going to have to do to keep a relationship. What are some unhealthy patterns or beliefs that you're ready to let go of? I didn't say that you knew how to, but you're ready to. I didn't say that you're ready as then you're going to start tonight. Ready meaning I'm going to get some assistance so I can become aware and I can start acknowledging and I can start detoxing these things in my life. One example would be something like letting go of the belief that vulnerability equals weakness. I can sign out right now because how many of us on here associate vulnerability with being weak? And it's amazing how our mind works because for me, it's the opposite. The more vulnerable I am, the more powerful I feel. I feel like I'm in control. You're not going to scare me. You're not going to make me put walls up. You're not going to make me change my ways. The more of my vulnerability that I allow myself to walk in, live in, and expose, the more powerful. I feel so much more control of my life. And when we can't be vulnerable with ourselves, we're giving the power to someone else. Very good. I see someone in the comments saying not communicating the way I should, passive and shutting down. That's definitely going to be trauma, but I'm sure your attachment style is in there too. Thank you. I was wondering if you were getting on with us this year, Agent Pamela. Thank you for your super sticker. I love y'all, every single one of you. Thank you. This is needed and necessary. I appreciate you. Letting go of the belief that vulnerability equals weakness. How deep can your relationship go? How deep can your relationship be if there's no vulnerability in it? We're trying to impress each other. Number 3, set intentions for healing. Set intentions for healing. Choose one area to focus on, such as improving communication, setting boundaries, or practicing forgiveness. Excuse me. Choose one area to focus on. I want to improve communication. 2025, I'm going to work with improving communication. Maybe I'm going to learn to set boundaries. It's time for me to set boundaries. I am unhappy in my relationship, and I'm making him or her unhappy in our relationship because I don't have boundaries. Yes, you can even make other people unhappy because you don't have boundaries in the relationship. Because when you don't have boundaries in a relationship, you are more than likely to show up with a very passive, no problem. Yes, sure, absolutely. I'd love to. Awesome, wonderful, not a problem. Anytime. And then because there's no boundary there, now I'm sick and tired of them. They're always asking me for things. Can't they tell I'm tired? I feel like I'm being taken advantage of. This thing always falls on me. It always has to be me. It always got to start with me. It always has to end. There's no boundaries. So you actually make the other person miserable in a relationship with you because you have no boundaries. Trust me, when people are used to you the way you are and they like the way you are and you don't, they're getting something out of you that's keeping them in this relationship. And because they're getting something in this relationship that they're getting by you staying unhealthy, maybe a doormat, maybe they can walk on you, they are going to have a problem when boundaries come in. But for the average functioning person, they're happy that you put boundaries in because boundaries is life insurance for the relationship. Thank you. Is that Elin? I can't see the name from over here, but thank you so much, Howard, for the super sticker. Thank you. $5. Thank ya. Did you hear what I said? Boundaries is life insurance on the relationship. See, life insurance in life, someone has to die. But in relationship, all you need is have to have is a relationship, and a boundary needs to be in place. It's life insurance. It protects the life of the relationship. Don't fear boundaries just because you weren't taught them. You have boundaries already. You just may not recognize them. So just choose an area to focus on. This year is going to be about communication. All right, we're going to work some communication thing. Maybe you can get a coach. Maybe you can work with a pastor. Maybe you guys can read a book together and you both talk about communication and how you want to begin to incorporate it. Maybe setting some boundaries. Or how about this? This is going to be the year, babe, where we're going to practice forgiveness. Forgiveness. We have to forgive everything in 2025. And with boundaries, do not push the behaviors, because then you shouldn't be in a relationship with me. I shouldn't have to say, except for this, this, and this. You should know in a relationship with me, don't push the boundaries. But this year, we're going to work more on forgiveness instead of calling each other out. We're going to work more on forgiveness than giving each other the silent treatment and stonewalling each other. We're going to work more on forgiveness as quickly as possible and really see what our relationship can be like when we live a forgiven relationship life. Just forgive. I know they're wrong. Just forgive. What is the grudge? What is the grudge doing? What is it helping? What is it hurting? It's hurting a lot. We're going to practice forgiveness in 2025. Thank you, William Davis. Thank you for the super sticker, $4.99. I love the Davises. Number 4, practice self-forgiveness. Have you ever done that? That's right, Marquita. Forgive quickly. Have you ever practiced self-forgiveness? Woo, we've been doing that the last couple months in our church. And my God, before you can forgive others, you truly have to forgive yourself. Thank you so much, Kingly Priest. Last night, tonight, yes, I've seen your name. How do we practice self-forgiveness? Release the guilt. Come on, type it on the screen. Release the guilt. Every time we stand to pray, forgive. And don't forget yourself. Forgive. Release the guilt. What are some things that you feel guilty on in your life? Something new, and I bet you there's some skeletons in those closets, and the enemy of your mind, those intrusive thoughts are just wearing you down with guilt and guilt and guilt and guilt. How about shame? Shame for past behaviors. But what about if those behaviors were influenced by trauma? Why are you carrying shame and guilt for that? Remind yourself, I was doing my best then with the tools I had at the time. If I knew then what I know now, it should not be an excuse to keep the same behavior. It should be a course-corrected life, a life of forgiveness. And I have to start forgiving myself first. I was doing my best with the tools I had at the time. Maybe I lacked confidence. Maybe I had those attachment styles. They were ruling my life, and emotions were ruling my life. Maybe I had such a low self-esteem. The friends I had, the men or the women that I chose to date with were not the best for me. I was doing my best with the tools I had at the time. Release the guilt or shame from your past and remind yourself with compassion. So some tools for healing relational wounds that you can use to detox your relationships and foster healthy connections is to journal. I know you hate it, but journal for relational awareness. I was watching a movie the other day, and they were talking about journaling in the movie. And it was like a story. It wasn't anything that was nonfiction. And they were talking about how important it was to journal, because when you go back and read your journal, you will really see the damage you've done to yourself or the damage you've allowed someone else to do to you because of your codependency, because you are living in a trauma reactive life, that you are in toxic and unhealthy relationships that are not serving you. When you look back over your journal, you're like, I put up with that. I allowed that. I allowed this. And I'm wondering why this person still can't see me. This person still doesn't see who I am. This person doesn't have an appreciation for me. This person, I cry, I threaten, I do everything to let them know that they can't keep behaving like this, and they keep doing it. Well, my God, licking those pages. I've been doing this. I've allowed them to do this. I've been showing up for 10 years. Journal for relational awareness. And in your journaling, make sure you write about your relational patterns, your fears in the relationship, and your hopes. So let me give you a prompt. Let me give you a reflection on that number one question. So here's the question for your journaling prompt. What do I want to change about the way I connect with others? What do I want to change about the way I connect with others? Stop jumping to defensive mode. Stop assuming. Assuming. Phew, it's so exhausting. What do you want to change about the way you connect with others? And I would use this for all relationships, not just the domestic one. How about number 2? This is detox work. Reframing vulnerability. Reframing vulnerability. See vulnerability as a strength, not a weakness. You're as sick as your secrets. You don't got to go around telling your business. This ain't an exposure testimony, but this is being free in who you are. An affirmation that you can use for reframing vulnerability. It's safe for me to share my feelings with those I trust. It's safe for me to share my feelings with those I trust. Let's try one more time. It's safe for me to share my feelings with those I trust. Well, I've done it before. I thought I could trust and it wasn't right. Trust again. It's safe for me to share my feelings with those I trust. And you're going to take some responsibility in your life. If you are connected to a lot of people who you can't trust, then you really need to get with a coach, because you need to find out what is attracting you to people that can't be trusted. What is your proclivity to these type of people? What about them are drawing you in? Because oftentimes we major in the minors. Let's just say opposites attract. And this can be girlfriends, guy friends, relationships, whichever, co-workers. And you're like, I just feel like I don't have like a big heart. Like I don't have a big heart. And you're attracted to somebody who has a big heart. And while they have a big heart, you forget about all the 99 things about them that don't work for you, that are not safe. And this is where we usually go wrong. We usually major in the minors. We feel a deficiency of something in our life. Maybe we didn't get this from our father, so we look for that in men and we ignore the 99 other things. Or we liked this so much about our mothers. Our mothers, we like that she cooked a good meal. So we major in the minor. We find a woman that's willing to cook and make a good meal, but you ignore all the other 99 things that she's incapable of doing. We do this with friendships and relationships. What is it that you want to change about the way you connect with others? How can you reframe your vulnerability? You've got to find people that you can trust, and you've got to first find out what's wrong with you that you keep picking people who are unworthy of your trust. Are you majoring in the minors in any situation? Well, at least he comes home at night. Well, at least she raises the kids well. Is that really what joy and abundant life has come down to? Number 3, communication detox. Communication detox. Practice clear, honest communication. Practice clear, honest communication. Start by using I statements to express yourself. Instead of saying you do this and you do that and you do that, start with using I. Even if you feel that they're not getting it in the first conversation or the first month, stick with the I. Let's do this work for a year. Use I statements to express yourself without blame. You did this to me. No, I feel or I hurt when you do this. I am triggered by the abandonment of my mother every time you walk out when there's an argument. I am triggered by the trauma of abandonment by my mother when every time we go to therapy and you walk out of the session and leave me in there. That's a trigger right there. That's a trigger for abandonment. So instead of saying, when you do this, I hurt, I feel hurt when this happens. and I'd like to talk about it. And number 4, let's practice forgiveness. Forgiveness is about releasing the hold someone else's actions have on your peace. Is that a drop mic time? Forgiveness is about releasing the hold someone else's actions has on your peace. And there's a prayer affirmation you can use for that as well. I release this pain and I reclaim my peace. I release this pain and I reclaim my peace. Come on. I release this pain and reclaim my peace. Are you out there with me? Come on. Can I get an audience to do this with me? I release this pain and reclaim my peace. You're not whole if you don't have peace. And the last one, number 5, set and enforce boundaries. Now, I want to make it clear to you, setting and enforcing boundaries can take years. Now, you have some in place already. And those are probably the ones that came out of frustration and anger. And I'm not taking this anymore. You've got boundaries in place. But if you look over the landscape of your life and most of the relationships that you are in, and you feel that you are not being served well in those relationships, and you're not communicating, you're not practicing forgiveness, you're not doing the I statements, it's going to be time for you to set and enforce boundaries. And the hardest person, we always worry about our family and our loved ones, but the hardest person to set boundaries with is us. We're the ones that break our boundaries more than other people. They only break what we allow. And I can honestly tell you some boundaries I had worked on and worked on and worked on and worked on and worked on at least 5 years. It took me before I was like, this is it. What am I playing these games for? This ain't hopscotch. No, we're not doing this. But it took 5 years to do it because trauma taught me how to people please. So protect your emotional space by setting clear boundaries with others. Something like, I need time to process my feelings before continuing this conversation. So our reflection questions for the night. Here's your soul work. Are you ready? Come on, we're in overtime tonight. Is this good? Are y'all all right tonight? Our reflection questions for tonight. 3 of them. This is your soul work. What patterns in my relationships am I ready to detox from my life? What patterns in my relationships am I ready to detox from my life? Some of y'all need to start detoxing lying. The lying is just old, and your lies are so old, a kindergarten can see it. Lack of communication. Some of us need to be ready to detox from our life, the ups and downs that we put our family through. One day you're in, one day you're out. One day I'm happy, one day I'm sad. And you bring that nonsense into the house and you wonder why you don't have a home or a wife or a husband. What patterns in your relationships are you ready to detox from your life? Number 2, what steps can I take to improve my communication and boundaries? What steps can I take to improve my communication or boundaries and boundaries? And then lastly, number 3, what relationship would I like to nurture or heal and why? That's a big one. What relationship would I like to nurture or heal or both and why? You got to know your whys. I'm going to do a detox on that. Maybe I'll do a one night something in February. Ebony, make the note of that, please. We have to know our whys. Our whys is the north on the compass of why we do things. And you have to know your whys. You can't travel anywhere without knowing compass wise where north is. You've got to know your whys. What would you like to nurture or heal in your relationships? So write your thoughts. Write them in a journal. Share them on the comments so that you can help other people say, oh, I didn't think of that. That's what we share in the comments for. Yes, to get it out of ourselves, expose ourselves to some vulnerability, but also to help others through this process. That's why we're doing group therapy together. So you can create a simple inventory off of what we've done tonight, what I've taught you tonight. First, write down your relationships. Write down all your relationships on a sheet of notebook paper. And then out of those list of relationships, list your key relationships. Key relationships. The key relationships: family, friends, romantic partners, co-workers. And then assess each relationship. Do an assessment of it. This is so awesome when we do this in coaching. One of my favorite things to do outside of the cognitive reframing. Assess each relationship. Ask yourself, is this healthy? Is this relationship healthy and balanced? Is this relationship healthy and balanced? And then ask yourself, what needs improvement? What do I need from this relationship? And what boundaries do I need to set or strengthen? And then you set a goal for each of those relationships. Something like, I will practice active listening with my partner this week. And they don't even need to know what you're doing. You're doing this because you're putting your best foot forward to make this relationship loving and peaceful and joy, turning that soul into a home. Y'all doing all right? How you doing out there? So looking ahead, tonight we've explored how trauma impacts relationships and begun the process of detoxing relational wounds. Tomorrow, we're going to jump into chapter 5 by focusing on specific strategies for rebuilding trust. Does anybody need to know how to rebuild trust? How to foster intimacy and navigate challenging dynamics in our relationships. Absolutely, we can do this with grown children. It should be with anyone that's in those relationships. Healing relationships after trauma requires courage, honesty, and effort. But the rewards of meaningful connections are worth it. Remember, progress is made one small step at a time. If you'd like personalized support for your relational healing journey, consider one-on-one coaching with us. You can visit us at www.suzannemhoward.com, or you can message us at info@suzannemhoward.com or ebony@suzannemhoward.com. I want you to rest well tonight, knowing that you're creating space for healthier, more fulfilling relationships. And can you do me a favor? Can you take care of you? Because I really like you and I really want to trust you with someone who I know is going to take care of you. So I want you to take care of you a lot better than you did yesterday. I'll see you tomorrow night for night 10 as we continue this transformative journey together. I wish above all things that you prosper and be in good health, even as your soul prospers. God bless you and good night.